So, I've had the epiphany recently after proverbially smashing my head against a brick wall for seemingly months. I finally cracked the code on how to make acceptable, passable homebrew in Fabula Ultima. And with that breakthrough, and with some recent events in my personal game Fabula that I've been running, I've come to a realization about specifically the difference between Fabula Ultima and D&D as a whole. Now, yes, they are both tabletop role-playing games, and they both have a class-based system, and they both have, an HP as a sort of indicator of overall wellness and vitality and willingness to keep fighting. But I've noticed that the structure of the game, it values something different than what D&D values. And if you haven't seen it, there's a fantastic set of videos made by Cybrock of Cybrock Opinions. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it. And it is a great watch. And in that video, he talks about valuing what the game values. And basically what that means is that whatever the game is pushing you towards and telling you, hey, this is important, you should probably focus on this aspect of the game because this is what the entire game is built around. That's what you should probably do, as it is the thing that we spent the most time on and what is the most well fleshed out and balanced in terms of what we deem as game balance. And unfortunately, I found with this epiphany of Fabula Ultima homebrewing is that though D&D labels itself as a collaborative game, it really de-incentivizes party play, while Fabula Ultima really incentivizes cooperative play. Now, Brook, I know what those words mean, but in this context, what are you referring to? Let me explain. So, the problem with D&D that I have found recently is it had everything to do with how I was homebrewing before and the sudden click of Fabula homebrew now. It's that D&D homebrew, specifically 5th edition, it almost entirely requires every class to be self-sufficient. And many people will say, well, that's not true. Wizard has no healing capabilities. The Barbarian has no spell casting outside of like the one subclass option. And the Ranger, everyone thinks the Ranger sucks and that the Rogue is amazing, but compared to Fabula Ultima, every single class in 5th edition is required to be self-sufficient because multi-classing is not an inherent thing, it is an option. So the designers, I feel, have to make every class as self-contained as possible and not work well with everything else unless it is unintentional. See the 2014 version of Fighter's Second Wind, or not Second Wind, but Action Surge, where it's based on character level, not fighter level. So even if you just take 2 levels in Fighter and you're 18 levels in everything else, or in anything else, you still get the second charge of Action Surge because it's based on your 18th level, not fighter level. Unintended consequence. So there is a theme of D&D where every class has to be built in such a way that everything that they have works with itself and doesn't work well with anything else unless it was unintentional or there is a wording problem in which it makes it work by association. Like by rules that exist to circumvent the brokenness of certain combos, it leads to other combos existing that work because the rules say one thing and don't directly say no to the other thing. Meanwhile, with Fabula encourages team play because every class that you have to take multiples of. You have to take 2 to 3 classes at the beginning of character creation. It is required for you to do so. And thus, the designer, or designers, I don't know how many there are, I just know of the originator of Emma, they had the freedom, they had the space and the creativity to make every class less self-contained. Now, that is not to say that every class is perfect in that they are meant to work with other classes in an almost seamless manner, and that every class can work with every other class perfectly, and there's always these combos you can find with every class combination possible. I'm not saying that. There are certain class combinations that are certainly more geared towards a combo than others, and there's also, in particular, in my opinion, 2 classes that I'll get into in another video where I think they are too generalized and they are too self-contained, or they're too broad to be considered a singular class, and they would have been better if they had been split into at least 2, maybe 3 different classes to really encapsulate the feeling of playing a certain type of playstyle rather than just having a catch-all. And with that, it really encourages team play because with the multi-classing rule in Fabula being a requirement, it allows the player to build their character how they want, but it also allows them to not be as selfish is a word that I would probably use to describe this. It's that it allows the player to build their character in such a way that they can really make their character the way they want to without having to worry about being selfish or self-sufficient. Meanwhile, in D&D, you are basically required by the game to be self-sufficient and to be selfish because the game is built in such a way that every class has to be a main character in and of itself. And so each class has to have everything that it needs to accomplish anything in the game. And again, that's not to say that every class is perfect and they all have every aspect of the game, but that whatever that the game may throw at them, there is an option for it. Yes, certain martial classes don't have healing, but they are good for combat, and combat rewards gold and items, and gold can buy potions, which can heal you, and items can be potions, which can heal you. So there's a lot of incentive for players in D&D to be extremely selfish and just do whatever they want because the rules tell them that that's okay. In Fabula, however, I've noticed that Fabula has rules that say team play is important. Team play is the most important part of the game. And that is why initially when people look at Fabula, they'll look at the numbers and they'll see the skills, they'll look at the abilities and all that, and they'll say, wow, this seems extremely weak compared to D&D. Because it is. You're not meant to be every class is not meant to be the catch-all net, again, for a few exceptions. They're not meant to be the catch-all net of this particular niche. They are meant to be a piece of something. They're meant to be a piece of the character puzzle for your character. And I think that's what really got through to me was the thought process of Why? Why are all the Fabula classes so weak? Why are they so bad? Why is it that no matter what I make that sounds interesting and cool and works well in the confines of what I'm familiar with is seen as OP and broken and really needs to be toned down and super complex, and then finally it clicked, and it was the classes are intended to be quote-unquote bad in order to encourage the multi-classing aspect, so this way you can make the combo that you want to make the classes work in tandem and also work with the other players.